Hey everybody, Dishadar here again, and yet in another natural location. I just have a gift for finding these places, you know? Anyway, okay, so this video talks about what we believe. Now, I'll go ahead and say the disclaimer. I think I should make this a common practice. The opinions, unless stated otherwise, these are just my opinions, my interpretations of things. So don't think that, don't watch this video or any of my other videos, and because I'm a Wiccan and say it, think, oh, Dishadara said so and so, so this is a practice that is common to all Wiccans. No, this is specific to my personal practice of eclectic Wicca. So, now that we have that clarification, alright, what do I believe? This basically, of course, is all about me. Anyway, so, what do we believe? Well, what do I believe? So, alright, when I first got into Wicca, for around 4.5 years ago, actually I got into it either right before or right after Obama. Now that I think about it. Anyway, it's here. That's my puppy dog. So anyway, when I first got into Wicca, I was primarily into goddess worship. I didn't focus that much on the god. I didn't see them really as even either. I saw the goddess being more important since that was my focus, and being that I just converted from Christianity, I really didn't want any reminder of any male deity, to be honest. And I was quite wary of the term God and using it, because at the time I was such a greenhorn about it. It just put something in a pit in my stomach, so I didn't use it. And as time wore on, I started to see the necessary balance between the god and goddess of the energies of the spiritual and the physical, the mundane and the supernatural. So, yeah, I did that. And eventually, at one time, I believe it was like, I want to say 2.5 years ago, around halfway um, through my current practice, I thought that I would go from from a dual theistic faith, God and goddess, to being more monotheistic, just seeing deity as one overall and just worshiping different aspects of the same. And I thought that was really going to happen, and at a time I was kind of starting to drift to it, but then I don't know exactly what. It wasn't some monumentous event. It was just something that happened where I just went from edging towards monotheism, and then not necessarily monotheism, not seeing just one God, but just seeing different aspects of the same thing. Like, you have a whole bunch of different humans, but overall you have the human race. You have humans. You might have Asians, African Americans, European Americans, uh, um, Canadians. No, all these different types. Oh, all these different nationalities, ethnicities. No, not nationality, ethnicities. Pacific Islander, of course. But overall, they all fall. Even though they themselves are different, each group is different. They still fall under the umbrella term of being a human, of humanity. So that's how I see it, and that's how I saw it at the time. So right now, though, uh, I edged away. I was going to the edge of monotheism, but right before I got to that cliff, I was snatched back. I don't know exactly why, I just was. And now, my practice isn't exclusively Wiccan now. I don't know, it's part polytheistic, part pantheistic. Pantheistic is, I see deity as being part of us. Like, everything in the universe has deity within it, but yet deity being its own unique thing. Like, I don't know how to explain it without confusion, because as I practiced this yesterday, I even kind of confused myself because it was just so technical and stuff. It was kind of hard to describe without going on, because as I was practicing it on my own, it took an hour before I was finished describing exactly how I view deity. So I'm going to try and shorten it as best I can. It will not take an hour. Maybe 15 minutes. I don't know. I'm going to keep it real short and simple. So, now that I was able to elaborate yesterday as I practiced before I did this video, I see deity as having many different forms. They all they all have the same archetype, have overriding archetypes that cover, a certain swath. Like, you have the god or the deity, since I try to avoid gender terms. You have the deity of nature. And within the overall deity of nature, you have the deity of plants, the deity of animals, the deity of humans. Then you get more specific of, it's like if you have a deity of the plants, you have individuals within that swath. So if you have the umbrella term of nature, you have one under that umbrella of nature, you have plants, animals, plants and animals. And then if you go into the animal phase, well, what kinds of animals? Then you have your individual deity for insects, mammals, arthropods, that's how you pronounce it. Then you get more specific, it's a continuous breakdown until you get to the very individual. So you have, now, do I see deity as literal or do I see it as figurative? I see it as literal. Now, in my previous video where I said, titled From Christian to Wicca, I described not an event, a series of events that I had over with the spiritual, and that changed my outlook on things. So were it not for those experiences that I had, I would say I see deity purely as archetypal, an abstraction, an observation of the universe, of the world around us, and we take certain parts and then we slap a name on it. Bam, there you go. You got a religion, you got a faith, you got a deity. Bam, there you go. But considering some experiences that I had, I can't say that deity is abstract. I have to say, based on the experience, that deity is literal. That there is a literal force. Now, it's not like you can go travel to some high, low mountain or anything like that, and there you go. You want a new car. You want a deity. It's not like that. It's much more serious than that. Now, I don't believe, like I said, not a literal deity. I believe in literal deity, but not one that you can, see, like you see my dog right there. So it's not like, okay, a deity, you would just see it right there. I think it's more of a spirit. When I say spirit, of course, I'm not talking about archetype. I mean literal spirit that one can interact with. Now, you might not always get a response, but each of us, I believe, has had or will have an experience with the divine. Literal contact. And I'm getting a little uppity now because I'd rather not talk about it. Because it was, like I said, it wasn't negative, but it's just one of those things you want to keep to yourself. So anyway, so ICD is literal. So I do think that even though there are these large swaths that I'm talking about, I don't see them, they are archetypal in nature. And as how they operate and stuff like that. Like you have, like I said, the deity of nature, the deity of the individual. Like if you have a deity of dogs, for example, okay, then you would also have not a deity of a specific dog, for example, but you would have a spirit that is of the individual, like my cereal. Yeah, my little baby. So that's how I see things. I worship the general and the specific, but each deity, each divine form isn't just something that is like, it's just part of the flow. It is part of the flow, but it's independent of itself. So even though you have, say, I like to, as you see, the common theme is of nature. Since I'm talking more of in a natural concept than speaking about a whole bunch of other things, I'll just say set in nature. So if you have the deity of nature, bam, it has all these energies that as you go more specific, each thing that falls under it has that energy that is of the whole of nature, the deity of nature. But it's independent. There's that, bam, deity of nature, bam, deity of the animals, bam, deity of the plants, bam, deity of dogs, cats, birds, humans, worms, of all of those. But then as you get down to the individual, it doesn't become a deity, it becomes more of a spirit, a divine spirit. It's not, each spirit, each being is wholly unto itself because it is a state of being, but it's not something that is like, it's not something that has just this immense power. Now, of course, then it comes to the conversation, well, how can you say one, if you say that something is divine and one isn't divine, you're taking away its power, you're taking away its meaning. No, I'm not diminishing it. I'm just saying that the more specific you get, and since no matter how specific or general you get, each is independent of itself, they just work together into this divine plan, this divine creation. I know I'm starting to sound a little Christianish, but get over it. Anyway, because it's not that I'm trying to sound Christian, it's just that, that's just my personal truth. So I don't mean, now that I think about it, I don't mean to come off rude or anything like that. So my apologies for that. It's just that each individual is independent, but they work together as a team. And as you go to specific to individual, like I'll use my dog again, you get to the specific spirit of the dog. Then you go a little higher in the scale of all dogs. Then you go up into all of the animals. Then you go up to all of nature. As you ascend ever higher into the wholeness of deity, and till you get up into the very whole of creation. You have these energies that just simply multiply in power, multiply in strength. So yeah, that's how I see it. It's not, say, 13 minutes. So it's not that, it's actually not that long when you think about it. So that's how I see it. Each independent upon themselves. The spirit of, say, this tree right here. The spirit of that tree is different from the spirit of this tree. Just like it's different from the spirit of all these trees. But as a whole, they share in the universal energy of the deity of plant, of the divine plant form. You see, and it gets a little, it starts to become real beautiful because, like, even this bird here that you see flying away, this mockingbird, that has its own spirit. The spirit of that specific individual doing its own thing, but part of the divine form of creation, of life, experience, of death, destruction, rebirth. So that's how I personally see it, and it extends more to things that are living, things that are non-living, things that were never given life on its own. They still share the very spark and the breath of creation, because even though, like, say, this huge ass stone, well, it's actually multiple stones, this stone has its own energy, its own spirit, which is different from, I'm trying to find a rock. There aren't many rocks around here. It's different from every rock, but they still fall under the spirit of rocks of you, because they each have something. Oh, here's one. So this is some quartz, I think. This stone has a different spirit from this stone, different energy, a different vibration, a different state of existence, but they all fall under the same experience of a spirit of rocks, and they each have something to teach us. If we just open our hearts and open our minds and not limit ourselves to a type of thinking where it's like, unless it's more powerful than me, unless it has something to give me, I can't, not necessarily worship it, but I can't revere it, I can't learn from it, I can't meditate upon it. So that's how I view deity, each independent upon themselves, but all working together in the great cycle of life, of death, of rebirth. So if we open our minds and open our hearts, we can learn from it, though they can't necessarily learn from us. We can learn from it, they learn from each other based off their just living, and impact each other in ways that we have yet to find out and will soon find out, so long as we keep an open mind and an open heart. So, now that I got that done in 15, almost 16 minutes, it's very different from what many, well, not from many. It's different from the usual Wicca, which is just, typically speaking, on the very basic fundamental level, a dual theistic religion that believes in a god and goddess. Goddess, representing the spiritual and the magical aspect, and the god representing the sometimes, well, mundane and physical aspect. So that's what I believe. My opinions are due to change. It just, as I continue evolving and learning more and experiencing nature in this form through my path, and it'll just continue evolving and continue changing. So what I believe now may be totally different from what I believe a year from now, as I continue to experience all that is nature and all that is of deity. So this is D Shadar here. Thanks for watching, and have a very good day.